knight to f3, d5, c4, d4, and b4. This is the game between Levy Rossman, Gotham Chess here on YouTube as black, and Emilio Cordava, Grandmaster Emilio Cordava as white. So the game was played in 2018, and Levy is a international master, and Emilio is a full-fledged Grandmaster with more than 2600 in rating, so he is a very, very strong player. And this video is about Levy's journey, his quest, his mission to become a Grandmaster himself. And this is of course a controversial topic in the chess world because he's 25 years old and he has only like 2350 in rating, so people basically never achieve that. You have to be way, way further on your journey at that age, usually, to become a Grandmaster. So why do I believe that Levy will become a Grandmaster? That is what this video is about, and we're using this game as a jumping off point. And before I continue, I'm just going to say that I will say some nice things about Levy. Just so you don't get it confused, I don't actually know the guy. I'm not a fan of his channel. I don't particularly enjoy his style of content. I think the amount of ads, like four ads for a 15-minute video, is just, that's not me. So I'm not making this video because like I really want him to become a Grandmaster. I make this video because I think he really has something special to offer. Because even though I may not enjoy his content that much, I can see that he's a remarkable person. And the first argument for why I think he will become a Grandmaster is right now, where he plays g5 here. And the reason I am really interested in this move is because it's an original move. It has never ever been played before, maybe like, I think he said 5 times at the point when this game was played. It is completely obscure, and it's a gambit, and he's just, with no fear, he's just playing this obscure gambit that he knows nothing about, just to throw his opponent off. And his opponent thought for a very long time. I think he said 40 minutes or something before coming up with the reply, which is queen a5, queen a4 with a check, which is blocked like this, and then the point is queen b3. If we take a look at Levy's YouTube channel, we can see that he is taking a very well understood game, the YouTube game, and he's playing by the rules, and he is a chess YouTuber, but he's also original. He's also putting his own flavor and his own take, which has made him become, in just 2 years, the biggest chess YouTuber in the world. And that originality, that, should we say, willingness to go with his own ideas and put his own personal take on a game, I think can be translated into chess, and we see it also with this g5 move. And I think that is, for my closing argument, that is going to be one of the main points. That with Levy, we are talking about an original person with original ideas and a personal, unique take on how to do things. Tactically in the game, this knight is attacking this pawn. And you could argue that it's defended by the queen, but if we take, and now the problem is that because Emilio played queen b3, he can now play bishop b2, skewering the queen to the rook, and white will get a tremendous advantage. So that is why Levy in this position thought it best to protect this pawn. And you can see this move doesn't work because of b4. So he played bishop b7, protecting this guy one more time. Now the pawn is lost. Knight takes pawn, and we see that black is down material here. He gains space advantage though, and tempo, by playing e5. This opens up an attack from the queen to the knight. And we see the point of Emilio, Grandmaster Emilio's play here with queen to b3. This is a very strong move. It is protecting the knight. It is also X-ray attacking this bishop. In some variations, it's also looking at this e5 pawn. And here we also see a glimpse of Levy's originality. He played a very cool move here. He played queen e7 with the point that if white tries for the discovery with something like this, so the queen can take here, black can now capture with the pawn, unveiling an attack, or rather a defense from the queen or the bishop. It's a very interesting way to play the position. Now knight to e4, unveiling a discovered attack on the bishop, and also putting this knight on e4 where it is extremely strong, looking at f6, looking at d6, and also it's very hard to attack this knight behind this pawn here. And I think about here we are going to see my second argument that I'm going to put in the back of arguments for why I think Levy will become a Grandmaster. And the second argument here is that he plays king to f8 to protect the bishop. So this is Levy on the chessboard, right? This is do or die. This is the piece that represents him. And he is absolutely fine with giving up the right to castle. He's absolutely fine using his own personal resources to defend where it is necessary, even though it looks strange. He's absolutely fine with that. I think that is brave. I think it's a brave way to play chess. To just say, I'm going to use my king like this as a defensive piece because I believe it's good enough, even though you could say it's very, very risky, because of course now this king is going to be subject to a great attack. And I think there is a parallel to this sort of bravery in that Levy is extremely public about his quest to become a Grandmaster. And if he had been like 2500, or if he had been like 18 years old and already an IM, or 15 years old and already an IM, then it would be way more realistic that he would actually become a Grandmaster. But it is quite clear that he does not have what we would usually say is the required talent to become a chess Grandmaster in the traditional sense. He's not this, young prodigy that's just slaying Grandmasters left and right. Don't get me wrong, he's a very strong chess player, but it's very rare, if not like completely unheard of actually, that people in his position actually get to become a Grandmaster. But still, he's just completely public about it, and he's exposing himself like to all these attacks from fellow chess players, like Grandmasters who criticize him and say, oh, terrible, suspicious, this will never happen for you. Like all these kibitzers in the comments, because if you are as big as Levy is, like he has like 1.3 million subscribers, you will get some serious hate. Not for being a bad person. I think like most reasonable people will say that he's a very nice person. He seems like a cool guy. Like his content or not, like he seems like a cool guy. Doesn't matter. If you have 1.3 million subscribers, you are going to get some serious hate. And if you expose yourself, that's just ammo for the haters and the trolls. And he's doing it anyway. And I think that shows bravery. And I think that bravery is one of the most important ingredients in achieving success if you want like a really high level of success. And I'm basing that on some personal experience. I've had the great, I've been very lucky to meet some extremely successful people, and I think that the bravery, to just put yourself out there, seems to be a recurring theme with these people. That they are not afraid to try something, even though they will get criticized for it. They're not afraid of trying the impossible, basically. Okay, back to the chess. So here we saw the best move from white, b5. What's that about? Well, it's about putting the bishop here, protected by the knight, and pinning the queen to the king, winning the game more or less on the spot. Notice that this knight is also looking at c5, so this is not good enough. Can't block it. Levy, of course, understood this. Knight d7, pawn takes, pawn takes. Let's put the pieces on different sides of the board so we can keep an easy tally. To keep score, you can see that Levy is behind with one pawn. He has played this very risky gambit. Now bishop a3, and of course we have to, or Levy has to play c5. This now protected by the knight and the queen. So first, black used the weakness of this diagonal to get some concessions from black. White used this diagonal. Now you can see these concessions have weakened this long light squared diagonal. So queen to f3. Now we see an X-ray attack on the rook. So as soon as this knight moves, the queen will attack this rook. Therefore, bishop b7, and the tension like goes both ways now. Can you see that? So if we were able to move out of the way with a check, so we could move again because the king king would have to move. We could go capture the bishop as white. Since we can't do that, the pin also goes the other way. So if we move the knight, now a queen falls, or white's queen will fall. This pin is a little bit of a problem for white, so he plays e3, trying to challenge the really nice center control that black has established. And after knight f6, knight on g to f6, you are also able to play bishop to d3, protecting the knight. So a lot of the battle right now is about this long diagonal here and the pin on this knight. And thematically we have that black is down a pawn, and has a very weird king over here that could be very exposed very quickly if you make one false move. But the pin is strong for black, and the center control here on the dark squares are also very nice. So a very double-edged and interesting position. There is a lot of crazy potential tactics here, with either knight takes or bishop takes, and like utilizing the pin that goes both ways, sacrificing the queen to. There's a lot of stuff going on. So Levy sidesteps all of that by overprotecting maybe this pawn on c5 with the rook to c8. And now just castles for white, which is a luxury black, of course, do not have. Black though has some other tricks up his sleeve. Let's just put it like that. Because here Levy plays what I find just like a really actually beautiful and cool move, which is h5. And it's saying, okay, my position is weird. I have this weird king, and like there's all this incredible tension on the light squares, on this light square diagonal in particular, while I have this very solid pawn structure on the dark squares, but all of these dark pawns are attacked by bishop and pawn and all of this. So this is not like a traditional situation or opposition at all. So how can black get ahead? How can black move on from here? Because normal developing principles doesn't really work. And the reason I think this h5 move is so telling is because it's so resourceful. It is just showing that Levy has an extremely good grasp of how to take advantage of all the resources at his disposal. This move is about taking space against the king, limiting the space that these pieces have to maneuver on, but it is also about activating this rook, because now this rook can do a rover, that is rook up and over, to just slide into the game and become a very active and dangerous piece. And I think that the fact that Levy is a very resourceful person is reflected very, very clearly in his presence on YouTube. I think that I've been monitoring his YouTube career quite closely. I think it's fascinating. I think it's inspiring what he's been able to do. And like I say that he's resourceful, what I mean is that he plays to his strengths on YouTube. He's an honest person. He's honest about his flaws. He's not afraid of talking about his flaws, getting angry when losing blitz games, or being petty sometimes, and not being able to handle the haters very well, and all of this. But he's using that to his advantage, because he's making himself approachable or interesting, because you get a sense of him as a real person. So he's using the different resources he personally has at his disposal. The fact that he is capable of being honest in front of millions of people, and also just the way he's maneuvered with like other content creators, how he has been able to make new trends in thumbnails and titles, and also navigating the sometimes pretty crazy world of chess politics. I know that it may sound crazy to some of you guys, that's a real thing, but it is. And in no time at all, 2 years or something, Levy went from being like a small creator, basically like me, to be this like huge creator. And that shows like a tremendous level of resourcefulness, I think, because nobody handed this to him. And we can also see like how this move, h5, is really resourceful. And he's still not afraid, like he's playing this very strong 2600 GM, he's not afraid. He's just saying, no, I'm coming for you. I'm activating my rook in my completely own way, and I'm coming for you. So the pin here on the knight against the queen from the bishop is getting a little bit too much for Emilio. So he plays queen to f5. Now we see rook h6, which of course is one of the main points of h5. And after this move, and after the queen has moved away from f3, white can now play pawn to f3, solidifying this knight, or trying to at least, here in the center. Maybe if it's captured, we can capture with the pawn, opening up a battery here against the king, and just generally saying, okay, I am fighting back against your center, I am establishing my own center, and you're not going to crash through this way. That is what white is trying to say here. But Levy is still like, he's really resourceful. He's really taking everything he has at his disposal and he's making it sing. So like here he plays rook to c6. Just look at this position. I mean, it's so weird in a way. Some of it is very standard. The Tufi and Chethold bishops, very standard, have these bishops on the long diagonals. But usually you would have them with a pawn triangle formation. Also these two knights on d7 and f6, it's a very traditional way to put the knights, even this pawn center, quite traditional. These two rooks, what are they doing? How did they get into this position? Like, why are they not like forming a battery like this in a usual way? Well, it's because Levy chose an offbeat, very original gambit line, and he just improvised and he used all the resources at his disposal. Even himself represented as the king here in this sort of weird position alone on the back rank. But it works, and that's what is important. Rook c6 has a threat actually. It has to do with knight capturing on e4 and coming here trying to checkmate the queen. So the queen gets out of trouble prophylactically by going to h3 here. And here again, a very, very nice move, h4. Just taking a lot of space and just sort of utilizing the space advantage that black has, cramping white's pieces, saying, okay, you may be up a pawn, I may have a very weird king, but if you're not going to be able to attack my king, you know, why should I put my castle just close to my king? Why not put my walls all up in your face? Of course, if white is able to jump over the walls, could be a big problem. But Levy plays with no fear here. And h5 also has a very subtle and cool point in that it vacates the h5 square. And we will see more about that in a little while. White tries to, when you are cramped, there is a principled advice that you will try to trade off pieces and maybe also pawns to lessen the burden of defense and give yourself more available squares. And Emilio tries this here. He plays knight takes knight. But this comes with a very hefty price, of course, because this knight was not doing that much, and now it can replace this knight by recapturing. So this knight has been greatly improved as a result of this exchange. One of the other reasons that white would want to make this exchange is that now he can play bishop f5 so that he defends against the very nice idea bishop c1, bishop back to c1 here, which was vacated by rook c6. So Levy plays a lot of these moves that has one big point, now activating the rook on this diagonal, or cramping the queen side with this pawn move here. But also there's a subtle point also behind these moves in that they vacate interesting squares that can be used tactically. For now, white defends against this threat right here. Levy plays a move that in his own video he is quite hard on himself for playing it, and he's sort of saying, oh, I was trying to pressure him on the clock, and he plays king g8 here, getting the king into the more normal castle position. I've been checking this with the computer, and the computer seems to think that although this move is not optimal, it's not the best move, it still retains a significant advantage. So I think maybe he's a little bit too hard on himself for that. But let's see how the caged beast here, this super GM, is trying to get out of this cage that the very resourceful play by Levy has put him in. So he tries to activate. First, he plays e takes d. And here Levy played the quite obvious move, e takes d back, which gave white a chance to get back in the game. In his own video, he suggests that this knight h5 is extremely strong. Levy did not find this move and instead played the very natural e takes d here. And he just didn't see the defense that white now has available. So have you ever heard somebody say never play f3 or never play f6? Well, the diagonal here towards the king is quite dangerous. And black really would like to play something like queen here. Check. That's why this pawn here is very important. Okay. So how can we, as white, how can we allow ourselves to actually push this pawn so we can activate these pieces here and get out of the cage? How can we do that? Because the problem is, if you just do it now, you get hit with this check, and it's devastating. So what you have to do is to play bishop to c1 first, and that would equalize the position. It's not like white is better, but white now has a fighting chance. This is fine for white, because now white can play d3, and there's no queen check here. So the only move to get back in the game was bishop back to c1. And so of course Levy missed this because it's a very weird move. It's an undeveloping move. It just looks weird. The 2600 plus Grandmaster also missed this, and he came up with a different plan. And his plan was the king to f2. And I mean, this position here, it's just so rich with tactics. It's just like a very rich position, which is a segue for me to say something on a very realistic note about Levy and his chance to become a Grandmaster. Not everybody who is resourceful and original will have the time, because becoming a chess Grandmaster is ridiculously hard and requires a lot of work. So realistically, one of the reasons that I believe that Levy is able to do it is that he's rich. And I'm not saying like he's not like chilling on his yacht somewhere or something like that. He's not Elon Musk, I mean, but he is doing very well for himself on YouTube. And that means that hopefully, probably, in not too many years, he will have amassed resources, sufficient resources to take a lot of time off and not work 9, 10, 11, 12 hours every day, but maybe just work 1 hour, 2 hours every day to manage his company and focus almost exclusively on chess, which is a luxury that almost nobody has. And I'm not knocking him for this. I think it's very well deserved, by the way. Some people can get very annoyed when we talk about money, and I don't think there's anything good coming from that. Okay. What is the point of King f2 here? Let's take a look. First, Levy plays rook h5, and then we see the point here with rook e1. So now the rook is attacking the queen and is crucially protecting this e3 square, in much the same role as we were contemplating using this bishop for. But Levy has had this theme of vacating squares in this game. So what do you think his move, this rook move. What do you think that was about? This diagonal here. So in order to do something about that, we must of course first stop this threat on our queen. So Levy just plays queen to d6, crucially staying on the dark squares. And on this file here, we'll also now be able to play this extremely annoying move for white, because it's just cramping him so much. And now there's this check also. So can't really allow that. And we play, white plays d3. And it should be fine, of course, because we have the rook now defending. And the king, this king move, of course, from here to here was about defending the rook. So when we moved the rook here, it didn't just get captured by the queen. Now let's return to this bishop and this diagonal here. Because bishop h6 is just a slick move. Look at that now, he's threatening to just come in here, check. You can't go back in the castle, it's going to be devastating. And yeah, I just think that it's so cool how most of Levy's like really brilliant moves in this game has the theme of vacating squares for other pieces. So you have like here he makes one move that has like one big obvious point, like this rook is attacking this this bishop, but also there's the point, the even more dangerous but way more subtle point, that he vacates the square for a different piece that can come in with a deadly attack. It's getting a little bit desperate for white now. He tries rook here, giving up an exchange sacrifice. Levy says that's absolutely fine by me. I'm now up material for the first time in the game. But Emilio is saying, well, I recapture towards the center here, and now I have a very solid center. Now, okay, of course, my king is now the weird king. Before it was Levy's king that was weird. The Levy's king is sort of consolidated and is just now hanging out over there in the usual castle position. But hopefully, this king will be able to escape somewhere over here on the queen side before the attack crashes through, and then maybe white can survive. Levy is not letting go of the gas. So centralizing the queen here, queen to d5, e5. Okay, so the point of this move is to allow space for this rook to join the attack. We are thinking about sacrificing here, sacking the exchange back, and Levy must be quite pleased with his position here. Emilio tries to get out of the way and starting the evacuation plan. And there's no rest for the wicked. And we see a exacting Levy sacks the exchange back by capturing like this. This is check. Rook takes bishop on f5, check. This is not check. That makes no sense. What I was trying to say was that it would have been check if we hadn't moved. But my point was that we cannot capture this rook with the pawn because of the check here from the queen. So we have to capture with the queen. And just a very patient move. Queen takes h2. This is not about the material. It is about attacking this pawn and just coming in with deadly force, coordinating with the bishop and the rook against the king. here in order. There's like only one way to defend this. That is queen h3. And I think there is something really interesting going on here. Queen f4, queen f3, and just queen g4. So this is principled. And as we've talked about, Levy is this creative, artistic even person in his way, like he presents himself on YouTube and the way he plays chess and his originality. But he does not get lost in the creativity. What is needed from him, for him now, right, in this position, is just to respect chess and play the principled move. Where many of us, maybe us lesser players, we will encounter a problem when we are playing a beautiful game. And the problem is that we get carried away. So we want to be this amazing artist like Tal, you know, and therefore we try to force our will on the position. Like we say, okay, I played beautifully to get this advantage, and now I will force some beautiful mating sequence where I sacrifice half of my pieces, and it's going to be like an immortal game. And Levy has an advantage here due to his extremely creative and artistic play. But now he just plays the simple, principled move with this queen. He's just saying, no, I'm not going to trade the queens. It's a very simple chess principle that when you are attacking, you don't trade the queens. And like quite humbly, first he takes the pawn, and then the queen is just chasing him away, and he's just fine with it. He's just, yeah, I'm not going to exchange the queens. I'm not going to force anything. I'm just going to react until we are in a situation where, okay, my Grandmaster friend playing white here, it's your move. The ball is in your side of the playing field, and you are the one who's in trouble. What are you gonna do? What are you going to do? So he's principled in that way. So that is extremely important if you want to undertake some grand journey, of course, because you can get lost in the wilderness. And if Levy really tries really seriously to become a Grandmaster, he needs to be a principled person. Of course, he's a principled person in chess. He plays principled chess, but what I think is really worth noting here is that he is able to combine like the artistic brilliance with just simple, principled play where you sort of conservatively do what is needed instead of forcing your will or your own interpretation about how things should be. When needed, you just buckle down and you do what is needed. I think that's an extremely valuable skill. Back to the game. White is still trying to get out of dodge here. And the position is even on material. So if the king can get to safety, there is hope. Of course, black's pieces are way, way better. Because look at these guys. Like this rook has never moved. This knight has never moved. And like they don't look too great. But if we can get the king to safety, we can maybe get time to develop these guys and get back in the game. So king to d1. And now rook b6, threatening in some interesting things here on just capturing here so that this square is no longer defended. So we can go checkmate. And because we have this extremely strong battery here, but the two very important entry squares in front of a king and to the left, and on c1 they are both defended by the knight and the bishop. So rook b6 is threatening to do something about that. Mainly just executing this knight here. So king to c1 protects the knight. And here we see my final argument, I think, for why I think Levy will become a grandmaster. And that argument is bishop to c6, threatening bishop a4, checkmate. And the reason I am mentioning this little move here is that after this king move here, in this situation, black's game is winning here. Levy has a crushing advantage against a super strong grandmaster. And winning this game will literally be one of the biggest achievements of his life. So the question is, will he blink? Will his hand shake? And it doesn't, because he's able to execute, and he just plays the winning move. And let's talk a little bit about him as a professional creator in this regard, because I am really not qualified to assess his chess, because I'm not a strong enough chess player to really appreciate the subtle differences between a 2450 player, which is about his peak rating, and a 2500 player. But I've been on YouTube for 7 years, 8 years, and back when Levy's channel started popping, he also showed this very impressive ability to execute. He didn't take his foot off the gas. He capitalized on the advantage of Queen's Gambit and Corona, which had a lot of people with a lot of time at home. And as a fellow content creator, I know how hard the YouTube game is. And I'm just in awe of how Levy came in with a strong strategy. He adapted to every little change there was, and he just executed flawlessly. It's extremely impressive what he has been able to do in such a short time. Actually, White resigned here, but I know that many of you guys really want me to show why the position is winning. And let's just take a sample variation here. It's White to move, and he's faced with just bishop a4 checkmate. So just to show how the game could have ended, we can notice that this checkmating threat is very hard to meet. Cannot go here because of the rook. Here, no, because of the queen. So we would probably have, I think almost certainly, we would have to go king here, because trying to defend like this doesn't work, because as soon as we go here, of course, queen captures. So I think you actually have to go back. And now just rook takes. That's check. And we don't have time to recapture, because this is checkmate. So the king would have to go maybe here in order for this not to be checkmate, because now you could capture here. But as soon as the king moves, of course we just capture the rook, and we are up 1,000,000 pieces. We are still threatening this check, and this rook is joining there, so we can go check here afterwards. So you can hopefully see here in this position that if you are forced to give up a rook and a knight, then like for nothing, just to stave off checkmate for a couple of moves, then you can probably see, okay, the game is going to be losing for you. And what I like about this little variation is that the rook and the knight that white had to give up in order to stave off the checkmate, well, in fact, he had given up those pieces a long, long time ago. Did you notice how they never moved, these two pieces? They never moved. And yeah, so they were just in the way all this time. So let's talk about why I think that these traits and this part of Levy's personality that I feel I've extracted from watching this game and watching other of his games and following his career. Well, I mentioned also these extremely successful people I've met in my life, just by chance, in the weirdest circumstances. I found myself talking to some people who had done extraordinary things, and what I noticed was that they were very different from what I would expect somebody that has made something out of themselves, really made something out of themselves. Very different. They were not this. They were very different from each other. Also, all of my sort of prejudice against how such people would be, they didn't match at all. They were like these, just very different, unique people, very different from each other. And I think what was really going on there was that they did not conform to a preconceived notion of how one should achieve success. So instead they worked from their particular unique genetic makeup, their unique experience, their unique circumstances, and they built something great based on themselves, based on who they are, what they can do. And as we've seen, Levy is impressive in many ways, and what I think he will do when he feels the time is right is he's going to use the resources he will hopefully and probably have amassed by that point, so he can give himself the time to create a serious training schedule based around him as a person. I think the way he's training right now is just very much like everybody else is training in chess, and I don't think that is going to cut it, because he doesn't have the traditional chess talent. He's of course a very strong player, but he's not that kind of person that ever since he or she was 10 they could just memorize openings and create patterns no problem at all. He's not that kind of person. He has to find something else inside himself. And I think he's not going to become a grandmaster by training like they did in the Soviet school of chess. I think he's going to find ways to utilize his bravery, his originality, resourcefulness, and his ability to execute on a strategy. I think he's going to utilize that to find the right way for him in particular to become a grandmaster. And I'm quite convinced that he will succeed if he really wants it. I may not like Levy's style of content, but I cannot deny that he's a remarkable person. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's quite a detour. It's very different from what I usually do. But I thought so many people gave their opinions on Levy, and I thought they were all wrong, basically. So I just wanted to chime in, try something different. Let me know if you if you think that is interesting or if you want me to keep to my usual stuff. Thanks for watching very much. Thanks for watching. Bye.